Welcome to the 113th episode of the Sales Podcast. Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we've got a buddy of mine all the way from junior high school. I actually met Bothe back in 1983. I was a seventh grader, transferred from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Houston, and met Bo and played sports together. He actually went to a rival high school, so we talk about that a little bit. He brought it up. I did not, but I let him bring it up, because I'm a gracious winner, shall we say. But Bo has a great story. Went to college, got his MBA at Rice, and built up his marketing business, Brand Extract, into a force to be reckoned with. And we talk about how he grew it, some of the mistakes he made along the way, some failed partnerships didn't work out quite the way he had hoped, and how that made him better. And the most important thing I think you'll find interesting is how can you be, or at least be perceived, and perception is reality, so how can you be the smartest person in the room? So he talks about that. And I thought it was an interesting interview. It was good to catch up with an old friend from way back when. Haven't even seen him. I don't think I've seen him since high school. But get ready to take some notes as we bring on Bothe. Mr. Bo, my former friend, then turned nemesis, turned long-lost junior high school buddy, all the way from Texas. How the heck are you, man? Welcome to the Sales Podcast.
Good, Wes.
You didn't know I was going to throw that out, huh?
No, I didn't.
So there we were, junior high buddies, winning all kind of games, and you go to the rival school, and, I won't bring up the record, but now you're city councilman, owner, president, CEO of Brand Extract, and it's like, you know what? I got to catch up with Bo. So what is going on, man? Would you mind taking a minute or two, or folks that don't know you, let them know a little bit who you are, then we're going to go down the rabbit hole?
Sure, man. I am, like you said, I'm kind of involved in a lot of different things. President, CEO of Brand Extract. We founded Brand Extract in 2005. Started as a brand consultancy. We were watching kind of everything move that direction. It's been great to be in, this part of the world. Doing that the last 10 years. Will be 10 years in July.
Cool.
So as this entity, I guess for listeners, I'm a native Houstonian, Jesuit grad. Went to Texas Tech. Was going to try and play a little basketball. Was a half step too slow. And then jumped into graphic design, and then have worked for all different companies, Coors, Minute Maid, corporate, consumer, wayfinding, signage, all those different things to get to the point of what we do now, which is brand consulting. Personally, 4 little guys. We're trying to catch up to you, but
come on, bring it.
Make that happen. That's right. 4's for quitters. But we were, I've got 4 little guys, a coach. I got my MBA from Rice. Am real into leadership and entrepreneurship. Just finished up being president of the Alumni Association at Rice.
Cool. And
have my hands in a lot of different things, but mostly growing this business and kind of making that work.
Right.
So that's a general overview of me and what's going on.
Very cool. So what does that mean, a brand consultant? Because I work primarily with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and I'm always telling them, don't go build a brand.
Right.
Go make some money.
Right.
And then over time, if you make it 10 years and you deliver great experiences and great value, a brand will be created.
Sure.
But it sounds like, are you working with bigger companies that do need to pay attention to the brand?
Well, yeah. Most of our clients, I'd say, are kind of mid to large, private, small public. But to kind of add on to what you're saying, I think we're pretty pragmatic in our approach to when it comes to branding. But in those 10 years that you're small and growing, you're building a brand. You're making a promise. You're delivering on your services. You're delivering on what you're doing. And so, when we're talking about branding, we're not really just talking about the logo and the identity and the marketing and the website. We're talking about what you deliver and how you deliver. And those are the things that, whether you're a giant Fortune 500, Fortune 50 company, or you're, Bo in his garage starting up his business, there's a perception that people have about you. And, the world right now with digital and all that kind of stuff, they're going to brand you. They're going to define who you are, or you can be deliberate in how you want people to perceive you. And so when we talk about branding, that's a lot of what we're talking about.
So what can, like a bootstrapped kind of still small, maybe still in the garage type company, what can they do? What are you telling companies that size, if you were working with them? We're going into 2015. Mm-hmm. What do they need to be doing to manage the client expectation, manage their own brand, to grow their business?
Well, I think first, what I'd tell them is, okay, what are you known for? I mean, I think most people have to be defined for what they're known for. Are they known for service? Are they known for intellect? Are they known for knowledge? Are they known for friendliness? One of my, and I'm a storyteller, so you'll have to stop me. But we do when we bring on some, there's a point to this. When we bring on somebody here, I do the cultural interview, and I kind of go through our mission, vision, values, and all those things. And this young guy from Tennessee had this great kind of country twang to him, from Tennessee, from Memphis, big old dude. And he said, "What's king here?" And I had to think about that for a second. And it's a great question from a branding standpoint, whether you're in your garage or you're Marathon Oil. I had to sit back and think about what's king here. And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, is money king? Are you king? Are the clients king? Is the work king?" I mean, we do a lot of graphic design here. This guy is a graphic designer. In some cases, design firms, king is winning awards and doing beautiful work, And I had to think about it for a second. I said, no, for our company, king is doing the right thing. So what's the guiding principle? So, separate kind of going into the next year, because the part of the world I'm in right now is, shaking under the changes in the oil prices. But I think in general, whether you're in your garage or you're managing a giant company, what's the driver of your business? Why are you doing what you're doing, and how are you going to do it? And so if you're starting to define or thinking about defining your brand and how you're going to talk about yourself in regard to a sales presentation or how you're going to present your company, I think you have to define that. And king can be money sometimes. King can be growth. King can be the client. Yes, sir. How fast? How quick? For us, it happens to be, king is doing the right thing, and sometimes that makes us have to step up and say tough things to our clients, and sometimes we have to eat some work or crow, which isn't all that fun. But that's what I'd tell somebody that's sitting in their garage right now. If they're thinking about branding, the first place to start is internally. How do you want people to see you and perceive you, and how does that add value to what you're trying to do for them?
So, I mean, it sounds like you didn't have some lofty mission statement painted on your wall. You just kind of knew natively what your king was.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, so I've never been a big fluffy,
right,
mission type either. But I mean, do you encourage people to do that? I mean, did that help clarify some things for you? Is that written on the wall now?
It's written on the wall now, and it's taken, like I said, I'm a small business guy. We've taken 10 years. I've been out on my own 12 now, but we've taken 10 years to grow this where it is. And we always had a good idea of what we wanted to do, separate the thing we do, which is, branding and marketing, technology, all those different things, consulting. What we do is we help people grow. I mean, that's our mission statement in a more fluffy place, is we inspire people to create, transform, and grow. It's palatable. It aligns with what I want to do as the leader of the business. But at the end of the day, it tells somebody, if you're not interested in growing, we're not the company to work with. And that took us a little while to figure it out. Have we codified it? Yes. Is it on the walls now? Yeah. We've got 36 people, soon to be pretty much 40 people. And trying to keep all those people moving in the same direction is a challenge. We read books together. We do a lot of these things together. We just got these silly up bands so that we can maybe get in shape together.
Hey, round is a shape. I just have
right.
you know. Okay.
That's right. That's right. And I've always been square, but round is definitely a shape that I've been dealing with lately. So, but that's, having those guideposts. It's easy when it's 2 or 3 people. It gets harder when you get to 15, 20 people, and getting them all to optimize and row in the same direction in the right way is a challenge. And so I think sometimes people use those mission statements and branding and the words as a crutch to not deal with things. And we're trying to use it as a rallying cry, or a common language is really all we're trying to do. But I think they're important, not just from a rah standpoint, because I've always been the loud cheerleader kind of guy. I've had to learn how to sit down and go, okay, let's be quiet now and really focus on our business. So, yeah, sometimes that stuff can get a little fluffy, but, it's kind of nice to have a common ground with everybody, or common language.
Right. How do you weed out clients, prospects? How do you find the good ones? Because people, they'll see your awards, they'll see you're making a presence, you're building a name for yourself. Because I see it too, and it's like, not everybody does want to grow, or they're not willing to do what it takes to grow, or they don't want to hear the bad news. They don't want to have the tough conversation. So how do you weed them out?
Well, in the qualifying stage, we have really frank conversations about that. What are your growth goals? I mean, it's been crazy down here in Texas and in this region with energy doing what it's doing, and all the private equity money and all the kind of growth that's happening. We'll get people coming to us and they'll say, hey, we want to go from historically a $20 million company to $500 million in the next 3 years. And then you have to start asking these qualifying questions, right? Well, how much is that is through acquisition? How much real opportunity is that? How much is that through increasing price point? How much is it? And just asking those questions alone will either make their head spin to the point where you kind of realize, and they realize that we're not a good fit and they're not really willing to do what it takes. Or they'll get into it and ask more questions. I mean, at that point, then you can use numbers and timing to start to qualify. But even in many cases, we'll get down the road on developing a brand strategy and a growth strategy for somebody, and they'll get a year or two into it and decide, hey, this is a lot of work. I don't really want to do this. And we have to be real honest. What we've gotten to now and in 10 years is we're pretty honest. And do you really want to grow? Right. What is that going to take? Are you willing to quit playing golf 3 days a week to do this? And are you willing to?
Hell no.
Right. And that's cool. I mean, that's the one thing we talk about here as partners all the time in growing our firm. Do we really want to grow, or are we really dedicated to it? But you have to be real frank up front. And it's scary too, because there's a desire to grab everything, and as a small business owner, and back to branding, sometimes being defined by certain clients isn't a good thing. You have to look at it, you kind of look at your client set as a portfolio. What kind of clients do I need? How big do they need to be? What do they need to look like? How am I going to build with them or grow with them? Those are all things that we talk about when we're assessing a client, but we also talk to our clients about when they're looking at theirs.
Right. Well, the thing you're saying about the questions making their head spin, I always teach people in sales training that our goal as a professional salesman is to ask questions that they can't answer.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. Good. You've been reading my books and stuff. That's good. All right. That's why I like you. That's why I'm having you on. You just agree with me from now on, okay? And this interview will go just fine.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I always say it's because it's like going to a doctor, right? When you ask questions they can't answer, then they just assume you have the answer, right? Because you wouldn't have asked that question,
right,
if you didn't know how to address it,
right.
So, but I mean, so you're going on 1 and 2 year or 3 year engagements with clients. So, I mean, talk to me about that, because I don't do that usually. I do have some long-term clients, but I'm trying to help, especially the smaller clients, really bootstrap, get up and move. And if I start talking about a 3-year growth project, their heads would explode.
Yeah. I think when you're trying to qualify the type of client, if we're we're talking. I mean, we're not that far from from 6-month engagement, 2-month engagement.
Right.
Knock us out a website. Kind of projects. That the thing is that now those projects are getting bigger.
Right.
Really, if we're gonna entertain them, even in that case, a bad client, a well-paying bad client can kill your opportunities.
Right.
And so you just have to be really deliberate about, defining the type of client you want. When you're getting up and running and you're starting a business, I mean, I agree with you. There is a point where you have to take in everything that you can take in, but as you're defining, when you talk about brand, even as a small business, how inefficient is it to have 1,000 calls, of which 998 of them are good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think having a deliberate kind of idea of the type of client you want and how to go get them and where they are, even if right now I'm growing in the garage and I need whatever I can get to put food on the table. You're constantly weeding, right?
Right.
And that's the benefit to having kind of small contracts, is that, okay, well, this one's a bad one, I knocked that project out and now I can go get another one.
Yeah, don't do that again.
Right. But at least you're learning, right? You're learning what fits and what doesn't. But that's, I think, when you're really purposeful about that and what kind of clients you want, even from the beginning, you may take some stuff that doesn't fit with what's king,
Right.
but but you at least know that, what to do with it, how to service it, and,
Right.
you know how to handle it. The shorter term clients, I mean, I think, that's where those types of projects can start to commoditize. And then that's where you have to be really smart about, what do you want to do? Do I want to add long-term value to my clients? Well, that's going to be longer engagements, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Or am I really looking for volume?
Right.
Or I need to talk to 500 people to get 20 deals, to get, and those are great because I sell ball bearings and all I need is 20 ball bearing deals.
Mm-hmm. It's all ball bearings these days.
It's all ball bearings these days. Fencer valves and ball bearings.
Need some duct tape. It's a ball bearings.
That's right.
Ball bearings. Can't take me anywhere, man.
Awesome, man. Nothing like a little fletch.
So, I mean, are y'all still working the phones?
Yeah, we're sadly, I should be rereading your books. Sadly, we're just now getting to a point where we're having to be more proactive about our sales.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is developing a client hit list. Who do you want to go after? Who do you want to target? We've been very fortunate, having grown up in Houston and this area and been here. We've got a lot of contacts. We've got a really good reputation. So we get tons of work from referral.
Good.
The challenge at our size now is, how do I go get more of the perfect client?
Right.
And those people aren't just going to stumble upon me.
Right.
And so, being more deliberate and, I guess, disciplined about how we follow up and how we go after and who we talk to and when we talk to them becomes more important as we grow.
Right. All right, this may sound crazy, but people don't ever talk about it, and that's it's contracts, right? I mean, I've gone back and forth. I've gone from like 2 separate contracts, an overarching professional services agreement, a PSA, and then create a separate scope of work for each thing, yada yada, to like a 2-pager, sometimes even a 1-pager, just to like. If I iterate everything, then anything I leave out because it's so detailed, then they're going to come get me. Versus if I just keep it loose, we're going to work together. You're going to pay me. I'm going to work, and we'll quit when either of us want to quit.
Right on.
I mean, what do you recommend? How do you approach business like that?
Honestly, we're in like round 4 of the fourth.
Yeah.
Redo of our contracts and structure. Do you have an MSA, and then do you have small contracts and all that kind of stuff? The pragmatic part of me is really, a piece of paper and an agreement as detailed as it needs to be.
Right.
I know that sounds really silly, and I don't mean to be kind of passé about it. It kind of depends on what you're selling and the liabilities there. But the reality is the agreement adds value adds value only if you're looking, depending upon the kind of company you are. It's just really parameters.
Right.
That's what you're talking about. And so I guess the type of business would be, if it's a big software project, you might want to have pretty specific scope, timing, that kind of stuff. But if it's a consulting agreement that's more abstract, the less detailed, the better. Only in that it allows both parties to be flexible.
Right.
As long as you're working with, again, back to kind of finding the right client, you're working with the right client.
Right.
If you and your gut feel like, hey, I really need to bone up this contract and make it killer because this guy might, mess me over someday.
Right.
You probably shouldn't be working with that client.
Yeah.
So,
I know. But there's always one though. I mean,
Right,
they'll always
yeah.
bite you in the butt.
Yep.
Here and there. I was just writing about this. We're recording this. What's today? December 15th. So early this month, I responded to 2 chargebacks, both from July. Both just hit at the same time.
Right.
And they were small amounts. I mean, one was like $1,000, one was $2,000. But
Right.
still, I mean, people say, oh, it's just business. You know what? At least for me, business is personal.
Yeah.
And I lose sleep. I get irritated.
Yep.
And I'm fighting. I got all my notes. I mean, but
You're not a passionate guy at all. So.
yeah, it still comes up, man. So I mean, that's where I'm just torn. Do you cover all the bases, or just say, you know what, I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm gonna let karma just crush the jerks when they happen. So I don't know.
Well, honestly, there's nothing better than, legally, if you and I were to make an agreement, whether verbal or, in writing, it's still an agreement. So,
Not according to the credit card companies.
Well, technically, legally it is. Then it's a matter of who has the money to fight it.
Right.
And so I would think that the more risk there is, the more buttoned up you'd want to be.
Right.
And if you see risk as, not getting paid, if money in that agreement is king, and you see risk as, making sure that you get paid, then you better have a pretty tight contract.
Well, you know what I learned from this one? She came down for live training, 3 days of live training, 2 courses. One was 2 days, one was 1 day.
Yeah.
And she's like, on the 3rd day, she says, I didn't get what I wanted. I want a refund. I was like, really? No. And but because I didn't have a sign-in sheet, even though we took class photos and we had her work product that we created,
Yeah.
I didn't have a sign-in sheet.
Right.
So I couldn't prove she was there.
Right.
So now I have a sign-up sheet.
Now you have a sign-in sheet.
Everybody doing live training have a
Have a sign-up.
I never understood why they would. I'd go to different things and have you sign in. I was like, why am I signing in? That's why.
That's why.
And you have them sign in for every day that they attend.
Right. So you can count the
So you can
effort.
prove that they're. Isn't that crazy? The stuff we got to do just to not even make a buck, to keep a buck.
To keep a buck, right? Even though you provide the services. Well, but that's back to the credit card company, right? They have more money than you, so they're not too worried about it.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. So what do you see moving into 2015? I mean, are things changing for companies? I'm talking with people, and they're telling me, and I kind of laugh because it helps me stay in business, because they're like, what we were doing isn't working like it used to. I'm like,
Right.
Well, great. Pay me some more money and I'll help you figure it out. But
Help you fix it.
So what kind of shifts are you seeing? What are you telling people how to prepare moving into the new year?
We were just talking about this at lunch, actually, with my partners. I'm going to see, I think we can talk a little industry wise. I think you're going to see a shift. You've had a big shift into manufacturing right now. A lot of heavy goods and all that kind of stuff. Technology is always going to be, what it is, and Apple and smart bands and all this other stuff. But I think you're going to see another big tech shift and investment, especially down here in our area and this region. Everybody's been investing in manufacturing and that kind of stuff. I think you're going to see a lot on reputation management, analytics, data analysis, intelligence. Now, what people do with that is a big deal, right? I mean, you can overanalyze to death. Like back to kind of initial part of this conversation, right? You can overdo a brand. You can overdo your branding efforts when you're small.
Right.
But I think, I know data, big data, and all that stuff been on everybody's buzzword. But I think technology is getting to a point where, even small businesses can take advantage of the services out there to be smarter with how they understand, see, serve their clients. Which will cause a change in the efficiency curve, which will make us all better, smarter, better looking people. But
that's good for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know it's pretty bad right now. I'm not aging well. But I think that another thing is you're going to see, and depending upon the industry, this kind of buy online, pick up in store. BOPIS or whatever they're talking about. I think you're going to see a big shift back to a lot more handshakes and personal interaction. I don't think there's any kind of, everybody's got their opinions on, people can't look at a cell phone too long. They got to build personal. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it's easier. It's easier for my wife and I to go into Restoration Hardware to buy some plates. And it's more cost effective for them to say hi to me, shake my hand, show me the thing, and then have it shipped directly to my house. And so I think you're going to see a lot more in-store activity. It's getting a lot more efficient for people to have offices and to bring people in. It's a completely different shift than it was 10 years ago, where everyone started getting rid of brick and mortar and moving on. But how does that impact a small business owner in their garage? I think you're going to have to be doing like what we're Skyping, you're going to have to be doing more face-to-face, and there are going to be a lot more handshakes, which will affect your agreements, do I trust this guy, do I not trust this guy kind of thing. So I think you're going to see that in the next year. And I also think that you're going to see a lot of small businesses come out and a lot of new innovation, those kinds of things. I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking me about, but those are the trends we're seeing now.
Well, those trends are interesting. And what you said, though, at the end, that I was just reading this morning, talking about Amazon. And, with more states charging sales tax now online, and Amazon's like, they're admitting, they say, look, we came out as a low-cost provider to gain market share. And now that they have the market share, they're raising their prices. The discounts are not, it's not 30% off books anymore. It's 7%, things like that. So that's going to push the advantage back to that local small business owner, right? Because people will pay, if they can meet somebody and establish a relationship, and the price is close to the same, they'll do it. But with these changes, I can see that local person provide. I've always said people will pay for experience, they will pay for exclusivity. Right. And that, absolutely. And that local guy can do it if they focus on it.
Well, but if you kind of bring this back to branding a little bit, the goal of branding is to get more people to buy more stuff for longer periods of time for a greater amount of money. And that's not a commodity. That's when brand matters, right? That's not a commodity. It's not shiny. I want a ball bearing, shiny and round. It really doesn't matter what brand it is, because it rolls and it's smooth. But that kind of high touch. If you're in an industry or profession that's more high touch, thinking, I want exclusivity, then the brand has to exude that, right? You've got to be able to deliver on that. I'll never forget. You talked about, I'm not really sure that branding matters to a lot of my clients because, they're smaller and, I kind of tell them to stay away from it. Well, as a graphic designer growing up, I never really wore, t-shirt, black turtleneck, and kind of pushed myself off as the coolest, most hippest creative guy in the world, partially because I couldn't, because I'm not that cool. But the other side.
You are now, man. You're on the Sales Podcast.
That's right. Now I'm really cool, man. I'm viral. I'm going viral. I think the reality was, but I always wore a suit. I always wore a tie. I always, and I branded myself. I positioned myself. What I wanted to do was not position myself as the most creative person in the room because that was a red ocean for us. What I did want to position us as was the smartest guy in the room. Was a person that was going to solve problems and handle things, but not just make cool stuff. And that really worked for us as a small business. But that's branding.
Right.
It didn't matter what my business card looked like. It was how I presented myself.
Right.
And that was deliberate, on top of the fact that it was true, which I think a good brand has to be true.
Yep, sure.
I'm comfortable in a suit. I'm comfortable in a tie. I like wearing them, although I'm kind of casual today. It was true to me too, and so it wasn't just I wasn't faking it.
Right.
And I think that's another thing. If you talk about trends, it's easier to see when people are faking it now
Right.
than it's ever been. And it makes it puts even more pressure on you representing yourself the right way.
Right.
As you grow or move forward or present yourself in your business.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're saying is, we're saying the same things because
Right.
you were just being congruent, right? Which is the big
Right.
word. I mean, you're being consistent, you're being congruent. You weren't studying like, should I buy a blimp and put my name on it kind of branding.
Right,
right. Those were the little things that added up, and every time you walked in the room and you went to the same rooms, right, the same times, the same meetings, the same networking functions, there's both.
Same, yep.
In the suit, saying the same thing, asking tough questions, giving great answers. Wow,
Right.
I think I want to do business with that guy.
Right on.
You didn't buy. I don't think you bought like a green Lamborghini or a purple Hummer. With neon lights saying brand extract, or buying Super Bowl ads.
Right.
You weren't doing stupid crap like that. You were just being congruent.
Right.
And now you've built a brand.
Right. And I think that's then as you get more people, that's back to that mission statement conversation, as you have more people trying to keep that message consistent,
Right.
becomes a challenge because you're not the only personality managing that, or living that brand, right? You're other people that are out there in the marketplace. And that's, a lot of this stuff becomes efficiency, right? If I'm attracting the right customers that pay me on time, that appreciate what I do, that buy more services, and I deliver that service in a way that's congruent with the way I sold it, and it's consistent, and then they refer me to customers like them, right? Because they're going to hang out in the same pools of people with people that they like, that ends up doing the same thing, paying on time, paying at the right value, not fighting with you on price, buying faster and quicker. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But it's managed the right way. And, that's, when you're talking about merging marketing and brand perception and sales, that's what we're all trying. That's the holy grail, right? Is that when you put a message out there, people know what to expect. The best brands in the world are like that. Apple, Google, they manage your perception. They don't necessarily just manage the product you get.
Right.
And
how do you know when to take on a partner? Did you start your business with partners, or did you grow and then find some dudes you got along with and merged?
I think the challenge with partnership is it's almost like you're married again.
Right.
It's like you got two marriages. There are things that I just wasn't good at that I needed help with. And my business partner, Jonathan, was really good at those things. And so when we chose to merge, again, being deliberate and smart, I'd sworn after my former partnership that I'd never have partners again. Mm-hmm. And then, 2.5 years later, there I am again with a partner. And then we made an acquisition of a web, digital company, and we had 3 more minority partners, all of which have kind of different skills and experiences, and that is really helpful. But I think you have to think about those things when you're talking about bringing on a partner.
Right.
But you also, I think, have to be a little selfless. You have to know that, look, this isn't all about me anymore. And I'm going to have somebody else in the boat with me. And it's great because now I can go on vacation and somebody else can oversee things and make sure that, everything's going okay. The other side of it is, it's double-edged sword, right? I got to share the money. And I share the profit. I got to share the success, and I got to share the opportunity. Much like you would in a good, healthy marriage. It's not all about one or the other. It's about both working together. But choosing a partner, going into a partnership, it's a really challenging. There's no it depends on the personality, really.
Yeah.
Because there's no great formula or book you can read other than here are the things you should consider.
Right. All right. Maybe one day I'll have a partner. I don't know. Maybe one day you'll have me, all right? I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
I'm studying the brand extract cultural thing. I'm finding out what your king is so I can infiltrate.
There you go.
Well, cool, man. What's some parting words of wisdom you'd have for our listeners out there trying to grow, trying to build their brand, trying to make a name for themselves?
Other than never let your friend on the other team block you all the way down the field on film.
There you go.
I thought I'd bring that back in there, Wes. I took a beating for that in film session. And still, to this day, it 25 years later, sticks in my brain.
Look, dude, those were just some blocks. At least I didn't intercept you.
That's true. Very true.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Second quarter, y'all were moving. Could have won, but
there was the interception.
he threw it just right at my head. Just didn't even see me, man. Oh.
With your killer hands, man. That we were dead in the water.
Hey, I do have good hands, man.
That's right.
But that was a survival instinct. Like he literally just didn't see me. He threw it so hard right at my head. I was like, I better catch this ball or I might get a concussion.
It might take my head off. They'd be laughing at you on film. Yeah, I think this isn't going to be a detailed, hey, consider your brand with the, whatever, wear the suit. It's not going to be that. I think especially small business owners, and I'm going to give you a little Jesuit lore here. There's an old Jesuit saying called, allegedly St. Ignatius sent St. Xavier off to India, and he said, go set the world on fire. And if I had a recommendation for any small business owner or any business owner today, that's what you're doing. Go set the world on fire, light people up, get them excited about what you're doing. That's what a good brand does. That's what a good salesperson does. It gets somebody excited about their business, excited about not just what you're selling to them. It gets them excited about their goals and their opportunities and what they want to be, right? Asking the questions that they can't answer. And I think that's it. I think we've gone through a really kind of tough, I wouldn't say tough, it's just been what it is, man. It's been a weird cycle where we've, the economy went to crap and then we've been killing ourselves to bust it and make it work. And I think any small business owner or anybody kind of working themselves together, why are you doing what you do? Sit down. This is a great time of year to sit that down. We do that in our lives, right? Why don't you do that about your business? How do I want to be perceived? What kind of customers do I want to get? How do I want to get them excited about what I do and what they do? How do I make them better? Sitting down and kind of writing that down and understanding that, I think would allow us all to make our businesses better in the coming year. And I think there's so much change that's happening with technology and robotics and online, offline, and all these kinds of things. There's tons of opportunities that I'd say, go set the world on fire and be optimistic, because there are a lot of opportunities out there for us to take advantage of if we know how to take advantage of.
Yeah, as long as you're looking, right? Have your eyes open.
Right.
Find the opportunities. Right. They are there.
Have conversations. I think a lot of this is going to get more personal. I think you're going to see business get a lot more personal than it's been the last couple of years.
Right.
Coming up. So, just some thoughts on that. I wish I had a great shtick to say, enter these 5 things into this deal and mix up the bowl and you'll sell $1 million. But, I think, being excited about what you do and finding a way to tell that story in the right way is pretty critical, and you have to be pretty true to yourself and self-assess to be able to do that. So,
right. Amen. I love it. Well, thank you, sir.
Man.
And where should we send people? Brandextract.com, best place to find you?
That'd be a great place to come. We're always watching, so we know what's going on. But yeah, and send them to me. I'd love to talk to him. I love this kind of thing. So anytime somebody wants to give me a call, feel free.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Brand Extract. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Wes.
All right, man. So how cool is that to catch up with a buddy you've known for 32 years and get some good advice? That's the power of friendship, right? It's the power of doing things right, staying in touch with people. But Bo, he had some great advice talking about, what are some of the tough things you tell your clients. I always say, in selling, we have to get comfortable being in the presence of uncomfortable people, and we even need to be comfortable making them uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is the questions that you ask, just like a physician. When you go see your doctor for a physical, it's not comfortable getting undressed. It's not comfortable being in the cold room. It's not comfortable laying on that crinkly paper. Okay, and they're going to poke and prod and take blood and everything else, but it's their job. They have to have access to you, right, to make the proper diagnosis. And it's the same thing in sales. So, you're not berating them or, asking things, intentionally to be awkward. But you have to ask hard questions. In my business, I have to ask, how are sales? How are revenues? How are profits? What are margins looking like? What's your turnover like? What campaigns are working? What campaigns have failed? And it's not always comfortable to talk about money, to talk about your failures. But I need to know that if I'm going to help them grow their sales. And if they won't answer my questions, just like a doctor, I can't prescribe a diagnosis. If you go see the doctor and they're like, let's take your temperature. No. We need to draw some blood. No. We need a urine sample. No. So they're like, okay, why are you here? Well, I have a fever and, I have this rash, so I know I need some amoxicillin. Like, well, tough luck. Until I determine that for myself, I can't write you a prescription. So it's our job to, sometimes we would say it's hurt and rescue. You got to bring up the pain and then throw them the lifeline. But the client has to admit their own pain. Okay, I can't say, hey, you're in pain. No, imagine you're walking down the street, right? You're walking through the mall with your family, and a doctor walks up to you and says, hey, you have chest pains. You're like, no, I don't. But when you have chest pains, you'll stop what you're doing and go to the hospital immediately and do whatever they recommend to solve that pain, right? So we have to get the client, the prospect, to admit their own pain. Okay, and we do that through asking tough questions that may be hard for them to answer. That's all right. That's what Bo was talking about. What are your growth goals? What is king here? Is it money? Is it you? Is it your clients, the work, winning awards, growth? So, and sometimes people can't answer that. One of the things I do, I call it my initial process assessment. People pay up front to have a conversation with me, but I send them a very lengthy, detailed questionnaire. And sometimes it takes people a week or more to complete it. I make them think about things. And they have to answer honestly so I can then look and get a better snapshot, better insight into what's going on in their business. And then from there, I can make a recommendation. All right? So get better asking the hard questions. That's why I always say, marketing is just selling in print. If you're not a good salesperson, I don't think you can be as good of a marketer as you could be. You may be fine at marketing, but I think the best marketers are good salespeople. So be on the lookout, not even be on the lookout. Go check this out, right? Go look at theartoftheclose.guru. That's a live 7-session training that's kicking off Wednesday, April 8th. Okay. When you enroll, you'll get immediate access to 30-day sales growth. So that course in and of itself is $97, but you'll get immediate access. You'll get access also to the archives of the last time that I did the Art of the Close. But enroll in that, go through these 7 sessions, go through the 30 sessions of 30-day sales growth, and bring your questions each week to me and in our private Facebook group to help you sell mo better. All right, because I promise you, there are things you're doing in your own selling and prospecting activities that are holding you back. Okay, and I can help you overcome those, help you sell more. The class is only a few $100s. So check it out. Again, it's theartoftheclose.guru. You'll get free access to 30-day sales growth, and you'll make more money. I guarantee. cook, old chef used to say down in Louisiana. But hey, thanks for listening. Please share the love online, a little social sharing, rate this 5 stars, and always remember to sell different.